We are back, and we're going to talk about one of the coolest things that goes on at Guardian Angel Hospice, and that is social work.
Yes, sir.
Introduce yourself, sir.
My name is Jeff Buchanan. I'm the Director of Support Services at Guardian Angel Hospice.
And what makes social work at Guardian Angel so unique?
Social workers are givers by nature. We deal with the psychosocial aspect of the end-of-life issues. It can be a very trying experience when we're not only there for the patients and their families, but we're there for the nurses, the aides, the chaplains that we've got, all the folks that are providing the service. We're sort of the counselors on staff, if you will.
Now, we talked to Kelly a little bit about misconceptions, but I kind of want to talk to you about that as well, because it's one of those things, it's one of those topics that people really don't like to talk about.
Yeah, death is, we don't do death justice in the Western society. It's human nature that when something is uncomfortable, we're going to push it away from us. And at end of life, that's one of those things that gets pushed away.
Because nobody really wants to think about that.
No, they don't. And the number one goal with hospice is to get the patient and or the family to the simple state of acceptance. That this is the inevitable. And that's what we're trained to do, is to help them with those emotions that go with the end-of-life issues, the spiritual aspects of end-of-life issues, and certainly the physical.
And probably even family issues as well, to make sure everybody understands.
If there is dysfunction within a family, and mark my words, every family has dysfunction.
Even though they don't like to think that.
Absolutely, Chad. It's only magnified at end of life, and it'll raise its head at very unexpected times. I use the term that when people hear the words, there's nothing more we can do, you've got terminal cancer, you're about to get an unwanted house guest, and his name is Lou, and it's an acronym, L-O-U. L stands for the loss. Everybody's experiencing a level of loss. O is, and this is the hardest one for us in the Western world, it's out of our control, it's being done to us. And the U is the unexpected. You can expect the unexpected. And if you've ever had a house guest, an unwanted house guest, it's rather uncomfortable. And Lou sticks around for quite a while. And part of our services as social work is to provide bereavement coordination and follow-up with the bereaved, because you're going to go through a series of firsts without that loved one, and it can be difficult at times.
Birthdays, anniversaries.
Exactly.
Maybe special moments that have happened.
And everybody grieves in their own way. Something that you'll never hear from us at Guardian Angel is you should, because the way you grieve is going to be different than the way I grieve. We start with the patient and the person in mind.
Now, Jeff, can you give us an example of an issue that maybe is most difficult for you to explain to other people or to help them deal with?
Yeah, the term hospice. There's a huge misconception about what hospice is. It's not a place, it's a service. Hospice is something that is often the number one problem with hospice, besides the misconception of what it is, and most people think you've got to be on your deathbed and have cancer. That's not true. It can be many end-of-life types of diagnoses, dementia, COPD, it's renal failure, etc. But social workers get a bad rap, particularly because usually social workers are associated with Child Protective Services.
Oh, okay.
And so if families have had a history with having some trouble in that particular area, and they hear that a social worker from hospice is available, they think that we're there to take away something. We're part of the judicial system, and we're there to take away their kids or something. And that's not the case. We're there for the psychosocial aspects and the emotional trauma that people experience with end of life.
Which kind of goes back to your misconceptions about what you guys truly do and what you truly are about.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's kind of that more of a support system to make sure that, you know, there's a lot going on. Kelly and I talked about this. There's so many aspects coming at you all at one time, on top of the fact that you know the inevitable is coming.
Absolutely. And our job as social workers, and I appreciate you having me on with March being the National Social Worker Month, we do a multitude of roles. We advocate for the patient. We deal with the feelings and the counseling of the patients and the family. We facilitate discussions and mediate dialogue, because there's a lot of decisions that need to be made with end-of-life issues, and some of them are pretty unpleasant. I jokingly tell our patients that I have license to ask the really uncomfortable questions, and I apologize up front, but we need to talk about, have you made arrangements? What are your arrangements? And a lot of people don't, it's at arm's length. They just don't want to talk about it.
The details.
Yeah.
That you don't want to make quickly, that you want to make sure you have an informed decision made.
Yeah.
If you could give it some advice, I guess, on to somebody who's thinking about hospice or maybe hasn't considered hospice, what would you say?
I would say absolutely call first. People wait too long. There is so much that we are able to provide the family and the patient in palliative care, and we are often called way too late in the process of dying. So that would be my number one piece of advice. If you've got any inkling that someone is facing end-of-life issues, give hospice a call, give Guardian Angel a call, and first thing we'll do is assess the patient to see if they do qualify.
Because it's really a pretty simple process once that first phone call is made.
Yes, it is.
And then it's an invaluable service once the ball gets rolling.
Absolutely, because you've got extra sets of eyes and ears that are going to be able to visit and take care of and handle questions and intervene and advocate and
kind of explain things, because there's going to be a lot coming at you.
Yes.
There's a lot going to be happening.
Yes.
And it's nice to have that little extra ear that says, okay, this is what this means.
Yes. And we explain things, we discern, we don't decide, we don't come in and take charge. We start where the patient is. It's patient self-determination, and we're dealing with what they're dealing with. We may know that we've got an agenda when we come in for that particular meeting, but we start with where the patient is ultimately foremost first.
And being in the business, you kind of can not brace people, but kind of give them the avenue that they need to take. Give them a direction so that it's not so overbearing, so that it's not so blinding.
We educate, educate, and educate. And if you've ever had children, you can tell your child over and over, you know, something, 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 but it takes someone else sometimes for that to click.
Absolutely.
And that's why we educate and educate and encourage, because a lot of people they've got misconceptions about end of life, and fear is a huge part of it.
Absolutely it is. Everybody, even in normal health, it's one of those things that it looms in the back of your mind that one day.
And one day. And that's the number one question we get is, how much time do I have? And I tell people, you know, in social work school, they didn't give us a crystal ball.
There's usually only one person who knows that.
That's exactly right. You don't have a termination date or an expiration date stamped on your heel. Our goal is to make that patient and family as comfortable as possible during the whole process.
Now, how many social workers actually are there at the hospice?
We've got actually 6, including myself.
Okay.
We cover a 23-county area, so we've got them all sectioned off, all the way from Covington to the west to Marion to the east. We do Pulaski County up north, all the way to Carmel in the south. So it's quite a wide range.
And how much time do you actually spend with each family?
I'd like to say as much time as they need.
Sure.
It starts with them. On average, it's probably a half hour it could last to an hour and a half, depending upon whatever the issues are. We may be helping them with Medicaid paperwork, advocating for different decisions that they need to be made, running interference for them. So sometimes it's a 10-minute phone call, sometimes it's an hour and a half visit.
But beyond that, it's even more than that. I don't want people to get that hiccup that, it's just an hour and a half and then the decisions are made.
No.
That phone call in the middle of the night, you'll take.
Absolutely.
That phone call you'll take anytime, any day, and you guys are right there.
Yeah.
So when you say an hour and a half, it's really not an hour and a half.
No, it's an hour and a half of this FaceTime with that particular patient or individual. There's all kinds of things we continue to do on the back end. And consulting with our nurses and our chaplains and our aides is one of them, an interdisciplinary team process, so that, and the physicians, to get an idea of, we're treating the whole person, not just that particular illness.
Right.
It's more about, not about cure, it's more about care.
And what people really should understand is they've been through the process. We're kind of going back to the education.
Yeah.
You kind of know what to expect. And again, each patient is different.
Yes.
Each level of care is different.
Yes.
Each family is different, as you spoke
Amen.
about. But you guys kind of have the direction that you need to handle so that it's not those surprises. It's not those bumps in the road that send people...
It's not cookie cutter.
Right.
There's no way that it's cookie cutter. While we do have a recipe, sometimes it's not time to add the sugar, it's time to add the blunt facts, you know, to have the discussion. We tailor it to each particular need.
Jeff, how do they get a hold of you guys so that if they do have questions or maybe they want to start the ball rolling or find out even if they qualify?
453-7702 is the phone number here local in Kokomo. We've got a website. There's all kinds of different ways to get a hold of us.
And the first step is make that phone call.
Absolutely. Check it out.
And then you won't believe the difference it makes. Right.
You won't believe what's available for hospice service.
It truly is amazing. And it's right here. And they're people that you know. They're people that you go to the grocery store with. They're people, they truly are caring individuals.
Yep. Around the clock. 365.
Absolutely. Jeff, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you, Chad.
I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
We have truly a gem right here in Howard County, and it is Guardian Angel Hospice, and it is men like Jeff who do truly make a difference. Give them a call today. We'll be right back.